Hi guys, there's a fundamental problem in the media when it comes to issues like asylum seekers and immigration. Politicians set the narrative, even if it's a false one, and journalists rarely call them out on it or expose the lies in the framing of such topics. Sky News' Sophy Ridge spoke to Johnathan Ashworth of the Labour Party about new legislation the Tories want to bring in to, quote, deal with the small boats. Ashworth fell into the trap of responding to the question that made no sense, instead of rubbishing that question. Have a listen to this.
Actually, we've seen more boat crossings and the criminal gangs getting away with more and more. So we'll study it carefully. We'll also look to see whether this will actually deal with the backlog in processing asylum cases. And it's of course because of that huge backlog that the criminal gangs are able to exploit the situation. Now, the government have been in power now for 12, 13 years. They've allowed this backlog to build up. So we'll look at it carefully. We'll see if it actually practically deals with the existing problems in the system. But I have to say, we have heard these promises before from Conservative politicians.
You're absolutely right, of course, to highlight the huge backlog in processing asylum claims, which has a big knock-on effect. But just in principle, Chris Heaton-Harris said that it's going to be black and white, very simple, very clear. Do you support the idea that you should be banned from claiming asylum in the UK if you enter here illegally?
No, you can't arrive illegally. That's not an argument. I'll let him respond in a moment, but this framing is completely wrong. And the journalist shouldn't be asking these questions because they're stupid. It's not illegal to claim asylum. Look, when you make an asylum claim, the method in arriving, the means in arriving to the United Kingdom is irrelevant in respect to that claim. There's no such thing as arriving illegally. And she knows that she should know this, and she shouldn't be asking this question.
Well, again, we've not seen the actual legislation. We see Conservative ministers making big promises all the time to get headlines.
Just to come in, if I may, because I do understand that you haven't seen the legislation, you want to have a look at the detail, but I'm just asking you about the broad principle.
Well,
there is no principle here. It's a rubbish principle. It's not valid as an argument against someone's claim for asylum. So why are you talking about this? Because the Tories mentioned it, but you should have called out the Tories on this. You shouldn't be asking this question. And, Johnathan should respond by saying, this is a stupid question. You know it's a stupid question. I know it's a stupid question. And it's insulting to people who are watching this.
The broad principle is that refugees who arrive in this country, we have always welcomed them. People whose asylum applications have been turned down, then of course they should be returned. That is a principle that we have always accepted. The problem is, of course, the Conservatives will come out here and they will get headlines and they will say they're going to do this, that and the other, but they never deliver, do they? We were told last year that their borders bill was going to deal with this. It didn't. So we will study it carefully, but we'll also want to see whether they're going to crack down on those illegal people smuggling gangs, whether they're going to deal with the asylum backlog, because so far they have manifestly failed on that front.
You say that Labour's position is that refugees should be welcomed. And of course, many people who come to the UK on small boats are doing so because they're desperate, right? They are fleeing persecution. There may not be any other way for them to get to the UK and to put in an asylum claim. Many of those claims are then granted. So if you do hold that position that refugees are welcome, surely you should be opposing this plan.
Why is she asking these questions? This is the problem here. It's not the problem. Look, Johnathan, I understand, has to answer. He has to prepare his answer in the correct way because, the Labour Party don't want to piss off racists and bigots. This is red meat for racists and bigots, of course. But he has to carefully respond to this because the Labour Party want to win power. And he's sort of touched on it. But the question is completely flawed. And it's a failure of journalism. Now, people may not understand this, but When you put in an asylum claim under UN conventions, the government are not allowed to reject that claim based on how you arrived in the country. So when you hear about, well, this is an illegal crossing or something like that, if somebody's putting in an asylum claim, that can't be used against them. This is something quite basic. And I'm pretty sure Sophy Ridge understands that. So why the hell is she asking that question? It makes no sense. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.